Welcome back, my friends, to the Derate the Hate podcast. I am Wilk from wilkworld.com, and this is episode 8 of the Derate the Hate podcast. And today we're going to call this one Misery Loves Company. I think we've all probably heard that phrase before, but what does that mean? Why, there's a lot of people out there that seem to be in a bad mood all the time. They have this inability to see the positive in anything. And it seems like they try to take the people around them down. And, just like in one of our former episodes, I talked about how smiles and bad moods are contagious. Just like the title of this one says, Misery Loves Company. You've got some people that just have the inability to see the good in anything. They're constantly complaining about everything. And that does nothing but bring down everybody around them. There's just no way to deny it. I've got a sign in my office that says 3 ways to fail at everything in life. And the first one in there is complain about everything. The other 2 is never be grateful and blame everybody else for your mistakes. But today we're going to focus on the complaining about everything. When I say misery loves company, I think everybody probably can point out somebody in their life or somebody that they interact with on a regular basis that does nothing but complain. They can't see the positive in anything. They're constantly everything they talk about is negative. Whether it's negativity in the news, negativity about work, negativity about their home life, negativity about their kids, their husband, their wife, whatever the case may be. But nothing that comes out of their mouth is positive. They have that inability to look at the positive things in life, to be truly grateful for all the good things versus vocal about all the bad. Now, as I've mentioned before in this podcast, and I try to be as honest as I can be with everything that I talk about on this podcast, because, like I've said before, this podcast is made up of the lessons that I've learned from the mistakes I've made from my life. And there's been a lot of times in my life where I've been a pretty negative person. But years ago, I did hear somebody make I think I asked somebody how they were doing or whatever, just out of courtesy. And they said, if I was any better, I'd have to be twins. And that's actually a comment that I use now myself, because I just think it's awesome. I think it just exudes positivity. If I was any better, I'd have to be 2 people because I couldn't fit this much good into one. And I think that's absolutely awesome. Years ago, I started listening to Dave Ramsey. He's a financial guru. He's got a podcast. He's got a radio show, nationally syndicated radio show. The guy's an absolute genius when it comes to life lessons and money. And whenever anybody asks him how he's doing, he always says, better than I deserve. He's a very religious guy, very, very positive guy, and he tells things how it is. And when somebody asks him how he's doing, he says, better than I deserve. He's a very, very positive guy. He knows that he's a sinner, as most Christians do, and understands that. And he understands that his life is much, much better than he deserves as the person that he is, as the sinner that he is. So not to make this a religious conversation, but that is a very, very positive outlook on life. When somebody asks him how he's doing, better than I deserve. When somebody asks me how I'm doing, if I was any better, I'd have to be twins. That kind of positivity goes a long way in starting a conversation or starting an interaction with somebody. So how does that counteract, and how does that compare with somebody who, like I said, misery loves company, somebody that complains all the time? You walk up and you ask somebody, how are you doing? Well, I could be better. Or you ask somebody, how am I doing? Well, you know what? I this went wrong and that went wrong, and I woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. My wife didn't make me the coffee that I wanted, and, or whatever the case may be. And just, that kickoff to the conversation can make or break that conversation. It can make or break the person's mood that you're talking to. So we have to think about that when we're interacting with people, and that first springboard to that conversation, that first interaction, that first impression in any conversation that we're having with somebody, are we exuding negativity or are we exuding positivity? Because that can make or break the conversation. That can make or break the deal on how the rest of that conversation is going to go. Now, what makes this worse is that can, in turn, become a domino effect on how the next person that interacts with that person can be. So if you get somebody who's maybe easily influenced by somebody else's mood, or they already were maybe on the precipice of a bad mood, and now all of a sudden they've had to deal with somebody that was already in a bad mood, and that springboarded them into a worse mood, and now they have to interact. It can become a domino effect that really becomes super toxic. And one person's bad mood can now become a chain of events that is just ugly. Okay, so that temporary bad mood. Everybody has bad moods. Everybody has bad days. That's one thing, right? But you also have those people, and everybody knows at least one of them. I guarantee you, everybody knows at least one of them. Just a miserable person. Just never can possibly figure out a good thing to say about anything, and that is a toxicity that cannot be dealt with. That is one of those things where, they like I said, they have no ability to see the good in anything. Everything they say is negative, and every time somebody encounters them, I don't care, good mood, bad mood, indifferent, whatever, it's always something bad. It's always something ugly. It's always something toxic. And that is a pattern of behavior that can lead to a cesspool of toxic misery for everybody that encounters them. And quite honestly, it can't be tolerated. All right, so let's go with this. In financial circles, they say that you're going to be the product of, or you're going to be the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most, in financial terms. So, and I believe, I very much believe that the same is true for people, mentally or psychologically, I guess. Whatever, I don't know. I'm not a psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, anything, I hope. But, if you're hanging around with 5 people that are in bad moods all the time, you are going to be incapable of being in a good mood. It's just going to be impossible. If half the people you hang around are positive and outgoing and cheery, you got a good chance of being positive, outgoing, and cheery. But if the people that you hang around the most and the people that you interact with the most are so incredibly negative, you are going to be pretty much incapable of being a positive person. So what am I saying here? If you're around somebody, and like I said, everybody's going to know somebody that's in a bad mood once in a while. Everybody's going to be, forced to deal with people that are negative. It's just going to be part of life, and we have to deal with that. But if you have somebody in your life that is constantly negative, has the inability to see the positive in anything, you got to encourage that person to get some help. You have got to encourage that person to do some soul searching, whether it be reading books or listening to this podcast or some other self-help podcast or something. But get that person the help that they need to start to pull those positive berries out of the garden of life, because they're there. They're there. Everybody, I don't care how bad it is in life. If you constantly focus on the negative and you constantly have that, I don't care whether it's the perpetually offended attitude that I talk about in another one of our podcasts, or if you've got that perpetual victim mentality, if you have the inability to see that there's a lot of good in life, and you think that you're constantly a victim in everything that you do, you're going to be incapable of being happy. It's not going to work. It's plain and simple, it will not work. You cannot be a happy person if you constantly think you're a victim. You cannot be a happy person if you're complaining about everything. I don't care who you think you are and what you think you can overcome in life. If you have nothing positive to say about anything, you can say, well, I'm happy. but you're complaining about everything, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to whoever you're talking to. It's not going to work. It does not make sense. It does not compute. It's not possible. So, and again, like I said at the beginning of this, 3 ways to fail at everything in life. Number 1, complain about everything. If you're complaining about everything all the time, you're not going to succeed in life. You may succeed at some parts of life. You look at some of the movie stars or so-called celebrities out there, or sports stars or whatever, and you look at the things that they are saying, and the every time they do an interview, they've got nothing positive to say. It's all negative. Okay, they may be rich, they may be famous, but I guarantee you they're miserable. They're miserable, and I call it a failure. They're a failure. There's no way about it. No way around it. They're a failure. Just because you're rich, just because you're famous, just because everybody knows who you are, or just because your face is on the cover of something all the time, if you're complaining all the time, you're a failure. You're failing at life. You're failing at everything. You can't be successful in life when you complain about everything. And then, like I said, the other 2 is never being grateful. Never being grateful is just a byproduct of complaining about everything all the time, and then obviously blaming everybody else for your problems. If you can't take accountability for the problems in your life, you're never gonna be a success anyway. So anyways, like I said, misery loves company. If you've got that person in your life that doesn't have anything positive to say, it has an incapability of any time, and I don't mean, like I said, once in a while somebody's in a bad mood, they got a bad day, whatever the case may be. I get it. No, everybody's got a bad day. But that's that one person. If they constantly have nothing good to say about somebody, or they have nothing good to say about anything in their life, you got to cut that stuff out. That's toxic. It's a cancer to you. It's a cancer to everybody that has to encounter them. So you've got to call that person out on that. Tell them to get some help. Maybe they don't even know it. Chances are they do, but maybe they don't. And you just have to tell them, hey, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't bother talking to me. Because like I said, just like the being the average of the 5 people you're around the most, if you're around somebody who's negative all the time, if you're around somebody who's got an inability to see the positive in anything, that's going to drag you down. That's going to drag down the mood in your life. It's going to drag down the ability for you to be positive about things, and nobody wants that. We have to surround ourselves with people that have the ability to be positive, have the ability to show gratitude, have the ability to see the good things in life and accentuate those good things, and be the person, surround yourself with people that you want to be like. Do you want to be around somebody who's miserable all the time? Because I guarantee it's going to make you miserable. Do you want to be around somebody? Do you want to be a positive person? Do you want to be an upbeat person? Do you want to really, really enjoy life and be able to be grateful for everything that you've got? Then you got to find some people, and you got to be around people. You got to surround yourself with people that truly know how to be positive. Pick those positive berries from the garden of life. Pick those people that really know how to enjoy life, and surround yourself with those people, and it's going to make your life a whole lot better. Okay, with that, so each week I try to wrap up each episode with a good news story, a good deed story. With all the doom and gloom media, bleeds it leads, everything's negative, especially right now. I mean, we're in the second week of June in 2020. People are going to look back on this year and just cringe. But we all need some of that good news, that good deed kind of story that makes us feel good. And the one that I'm going to do this week, I got to say I'm guilty. Last week, I don't know how I did it, but when I finished my recording and my wife and I listened to it, I realized I didn't put one in there. But this week, I'm definitely going to do it. We've got a good news story out of North Georgia, where a young lady by the name of Ella Offit got an idea to do Mother's Day cards for all the gals at a local nursing home, local long-term care facility. So little Miss Ella Offit from Redbug Middle School in Calhoun, Georgia, went ahead and made 63 homemade Mother's Day cards for all the ladies in the Morning Point long-term care facility in Calhoun, Georgia. there, many of them with Alzheimer's, and obviously with everything that we're going through in the world right now, many of them couldn't be with family, and maybe didn't have any family to stop by on Mother's Day. But young Miss Ella put together these Mother's Day cards with special messages and Bible verses, and just really made the day of a lot of these women, and I think that is just incredibly special. Definitely big kudos going out to young Miss Ella Offit from Redbug Middle School in Calhoun, Georgia, and that's the kind of story that makes me feel good. It makes me, renews my faith in humanity. So way to go, and keep up stuff like that. So I'm going to wrap up this episode of the Derate the Hate podcast. Again, I'm Wilk from wilksworld.com. Check us out. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Share it. Leave us a comment. It'd be greatly appreciated. And, when you can, get out there. Be kind to one another. Be grateful for everything that you've got. And remember, it's always up to you to make each day what you want that day to be. Thank you very much for listening.